Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, today we're talking about the 5 hidden expenses that often shock federal employees as they move into retirement. They're shocked by how big these expenses can be, and there's a few things you can do to mitigate these risks and mitigate these expenses, but you have to know about them. So today we're going to talk about them so you can go in with your eyes wide open into retirement to know what you're getting into and to know that to make sure you are prepared, okay? If you are new here, great to have you. My name is Dallin Hawes. I'm a financial planner and CFP, and I help federal employees retire confident. Let's dive in. Number one, I'm gonna start with the obvious ones, then move to the less obvious ones in the rest of the video. So number one is healthcare, health expenses. People are often shocked by what health expenses come up, and maybe you are the type of person that never really had a lot of health expenses come up because you've been healthy your entire life. Well, if you're gonna have health expenses, it's gonna happen in retirement because that is when you get older and you tend to have more issues. So it is so critical to have a good FEHB plan and to make a good decision on whether you want Medicare A and B or C or D or whatever. You want to have the right coverage to mitigate any large medical expenses in retirement, which if you want more information on FEHB and Medicare A and B, what options you should pick, go check out my videos on that. That'll go into that. But you don't want to be shocked by health expenses in retirement. So go in with a solid plan, good health insurance plan that will have you covered when you need it the most, okay? Number 2, long-term care expenses. Many of you might be experiencing this with your parents. As they age, they may need to be in a nursing home or a assisted living, some sort of living where they just need help. They can't do everything on their own, and maybe you can't take care of them or whatever it is. You might be experiencing that with your parents, and you're going to get there one day. We all are, and it's often surprising how expensive this sort of thing is. Now, I've got videos on whether or not you should get long-term care insurance, right? But long story short, long-term care insurance is expensive, but you want to have a plan to be able to cover these expenses when they come up. So go check out my videos on long-term care if you want the full-length discussion. But long story short, long-term care is expensive, whether you have insurance or not, and you want to make sure you have a plan and you've got money there ready to go to pay for that, and that you're not blindsided by the fact that it gets very expensive to be in these facilities for an extended amount of time, okay? Number 3, the third hidden expense that often really is sneaky is home repairs. Whenever we are living in a home, which generally people tend to settle down in retirement, buy a home, or have been in a home for a while, well, retirement can be a long time, 10, 20, 30 years. And if we add 10, 20, 30 years onto a home, there is bound to be some major renovations and major issues that come up during that time. And it seems that, I don't know why, but once people hit retirement, this sort of thing comes up, it seems more often than it did before, where maybe homes are getting older or whatever it is, where there's a lot of work and things that just sprout up around the house. You want to make sure you're comfortable and you've got wiggle room in your retirement budget to cover this sort of thing. And even in retirement, you're going to want some sort of emergency fund to cover things that are going to come up with your house, because they are going to come up. It's just a matter of when and how bad it is. It's going to come up. You want to make sure you're prepared, okay? Next, the 4th expense that is often hidden, most people don't think about until it hits them, is expenses for adult kids. Now, obviously you don't have kids, this is not going to apply to you, but if you do have kids, you may relate where maybe something comes up like a wedding, or maybe a kid just needs help. They're like, hey, mom and dad, I need help on this and this. I lost my job, whatever. Things might come up that they need your help on. Now, I'm not saying you should help them. I'm not saying you shouldn't. That is totally your decision based on your situation. I know, though, when you start helping adult children financially, it's very hard to stop. So just keep that in mind, and I'd make it very, very clear, however you decide to help them, exactly the terms of how you're helping them and all those things. If I was you, I'd make it very, very clear the terms of that help and exactly what you plan on doing in the long term, because I've seen some people sacrifice their own retirement trying to supplement their kids' lifestyle and be taken advantage of. So just keep that in mind, is that adult kids can be expensive if you're not careful, depending on what their needs are and how much you're willing to help. So keep that in mind, okay? Next, the 5th expense that is often very hidden, most people do not think about, is when a spouse dies, okay? if your spouse dies or if you die and leave your spouse, often there's a number of income sources that go away. You may not have more expenses when one spouse dies, but some income is bound to go away most of the time. For example, if both of you have Social Security, well, one of those benefits is going to drop off. If, let's say, one of you had a pension, well, maybe most of that pension is going to go away unless they had a survivor benefit or something like that. Long story short, generally speaking, when one person passes away, some income drops off. And is the surviving spouse going to be okay? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And the only way to know if they're going to be okay is to run the numbers and say, okay, what income are they going to be left with? What income am I going to be left with if they pass first? And if you do the math and you say, okay, look, I'll be fine or they'll be fine, great. But a lot of people won't be, or it'll be tight, a lot tighter when one spouse passes away, especially if you're the higher earner. There tends to be more income that's tied to your life. So you, excuse me, so you want to make sure that you have, whether it's the right survivor benefits, the right life insurance, whatever you need to make sure your spouse is taken care of. That's a huge, huge part of all of this. So those are the 5 hidden expenses. Now, if there's any expenses that maybe you're already retired that you are surprised about, please put in the comments below, and we'll all learn and get better together when we collaborate and talk and learn together. So I hope that's helpful. Have an incredible rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time.